Hi everyone, welcome back to the London Premier League show. It's been a while since we've been here. So before we go into the Premier League talk, we'll just get both your thoughts, and I'll give my thoughts on the World Cup final. We'll start with James.
World Cup final, if it weren't for the last 10 minutes, it would have been a gentle stroll for Argentina, being 2-0 up, and it would have been not, as what everyone keeps saying, one of the best finals they've ever seen. They were cruising up until the last 10 minutes, and it would have just been, job done. But you've got to credit France for coming back in as soon as they scored. They were on top. They were not lucky, but they got the second straight away, which made it then end-to-end last 10 minutes. And extra time was just end-to-end, both teams trying to win it. And I thought it was good. I think both teams probably, when you look at their run, deserved to make it because they both, I think they both lost a group game in their group stages, but they managed to win when they had to. Little mention of Morocco. I think they've done really well. Credit them. But I think overall, if I wanted either which team to win, it probably would have been Argentina, just to prove a point about a certain gentleman called Messi. So happy for him. But yeah, I think it was good. I was pleased both players scored their penalties in the penalty shootout, Mbappe and Messi, because if one of them would have missed, it would have been all about that. So, fair play to Argentina.
Yeah, I agree with James. I echo what he says. In terms of Argentina, they were cruising until Otamendi's era. I don't know why Lisandro doesn't start for Argentina, but yeah, I think Messi crowns pretty much, it's a perfect football career, Messi. 2 years ago, people were saying, oh, he's not won anything. He's won the Olympic gold, but he's not won a Copa America. He's not won the World Cup, and he's absolutely shut that down in back-to-back tournaments. And he's gone from maybe his international career, leaving a lot to be desired, to 2 years later, wiping the set in terms of cleaning everything, club football, whether it's collectively, individually, and now internationally, he's won everything there as well. Copa America, World Cup, whatever that tournament you call when they played Italy, the South American champions against European champions, and he's got the Olympic gold medal to crown it off. So it's going to be very hard for someone to come and replicate Messi's career in terms of you've got to win 4 Champions League, 7 Ballon d'Ors. Not saying it's impossible, but I don't think I'll see it in my lifetime. And in terms of what James said about the World Cup final, yeah, I agree. So I'm happy for Messi, and James did get it spot on. He said he wanted Argentina to win the World Cup before the tournament. So that's something else from the World Cup he got spot on. If you check out that video, the World Cup preview, if anyone missed it. And yeah, Razanthan, your thoughts?
I think overall the World Cup was great. I think given all the controversy and the context that with the Qatar being host, I think if you put that all aside, it's been a great World Cup. There's really good upsets. We saw Morocco do really well, first African team to make it to the semis. I think England as a nation did well as well. I guess they didn't do too bad. They made it to the quarters. I think disappointments. I think everyone would be disappointed in Brazil's knockout. I think everyone expected them to get to at least the semi-finals, given the fact that they got Croatia. But on the other hand, as I said, big up Croatia as well. They made it to the semi-finals and did it well as well. In terms of the final, yeah, I agree with what you both said. It was all Argentina up until the 78th minute, I think. And then Mbappe came in. I think he stole the show. I think, rightly so, I think Messi does deserve to win this one because for me personally, it does close the GOAT debate. I know some people would argue that he didn't need to have this World Cup proven to be the GOAT, but it's just one of those one of those trophies or campaigns that you just have to win to be considered great, because up until this moment, there was still we couldn't really put our finger on it. People were bringing this apart about Ronaldo, this about Messi. We never really talked about them on an international level. It was always about Barcelona for Messi and Real Madrid for Ronaldo. But now that Messi's accomplished it for Argentina, I think it does take it out of the park. But yeah, like I said, overall great competition. I think I want to highlight Mbappe as well. It's just
yeah. Well, in fact, Razanthan, Go on,
Sorry,
James. Go on, James.
No, I was going to say, can you imagine being him, waking up every morning and thinking I scored a World Cup hat trick in the final?
And
But
didn't
yeah, I
win.
didn't.
Yeah.
Such a shame. Such a
But
shame. Such a shame.
I mean, it's perfect that Mbappe is the next topic. Like before the World Cup, people talk about him being the heir to the throne, knowing what he's done sort of previously over the last 4 or 5 years at PSG and bursting on the scene at Monaco before that, and what he's done at both his World Cups now. Has he done enough, in both of your opinion, to warrant being the heir to the throne? I'll start with Xanthan.
I think I mentioned this in my previous podcast. I think he's got that potential. I think all he needs to do is just prove it at club level. Because I'm pretty honest, he's proven it at international. If it takes Messi to win one trophy, or the World Cup, to cement it, Mbappe's done the hardest bit. Because you got to remember, Ronaldo hasn't done it. Messi, it only took him, let's just say 15 years into his career to do it. And you have all these other greats like Zlatan and whatnot that are up there, but not the greatest, that haven't won it either. You have the Lewandowskis, all these great players, strikers, that haven't won it. But Mbappe's won it at 19, finalist at 23. And I'm pretty sure he's only, maybe 6 goals away from all-time beating closest record. And he's still got maybe 3, maybe even 4 World Cup campaigns left in him. So I definitely do think so. I think he just either he does it with PSG or he takes that move to Real Madrid, whoever wants him.
Yeah, I agree with that. And a quick note on Lewandowski as well. Like I do feel for him. I think he's been robbed. Obviously, I still think it's not too late for the Ballon d'Or to award him that 2021, cancelling it for I don't know what reason. And obviously with the World Cup as well, you need to have a bit of luck with your passport. So yeah, but I agree with what you said on Kylian Mbappe. He's done in the Champions League as well. Like, so maybe it's just for him to move out of the French league, because people probably hold that against him in terms of Ligue 1 not being the one of Europe's top leagues. James?
Yeah, no, I can only echo what you both said about him. The only issues sort of I have a bit is that he's still got a fair few years to go so he can really dominate. You know, he's got the potential. He's got that sort of, he's already won things. He's got that ability. The only thing that I think's lacking is, and I can't say I've seen him a lot, and I've seen a lot of him, but not a lot, is just a bit of personality, a bit of sort of like, you know, when Messi got the ball, it was like, oh, Ronaldo.
Yeah.
It's like there's no sort of like anticipation that is at the level of being the best player in the world, you know. And if we're talking about sort of like, I'm saying I'm going to give him another sort of 5 years, and I think he will overtake, and he will. But the move is the crucial thing for him. He can't stay in this French league. He can't, it's fourth or fifth valued in like European football. It's not the top league. He needs to go somewhere to then dominate again. But I think like in terms of like World Cups, European Championships, he can dominate. He can sort of win a couple more. He's been in 2 finals. You know, as Samson said, he's done the hardest part, getting the hardest one. You know, but he's already played in 2 finals in the World Cup. So it's like, you know, he does that. The only other thing I will sort of carry with that, if we're talking about like people like Zlatan and all of that, yeah, I have to give a nod to like Gareth Bale, who's announced his retirement. And like you look at his career and you look at his 5-6 years at Real Madrid, and like, you know, what he won there and the Champions League and the sort of coming back to what I'm saying about Mbappe, about the sort of excitement. Like, you know, his first 3 or 4 seasons at Real Madrid, he was the best player in the world. Gareth Bale was everywhere. You know, he was dominating at Tottenham. He went from like being a left back, sort of full back, dominating, then going to getting his move, and then he was scoring goals left, right, and centre. And he was dominant. He was winning Champions League when he came off the bench, I think, against Liverpool. He won the Champions League. He scored a fantastic goal where he left the pitch and went for a drink and came back on and scored. You know what I mean? It's like, so if we're talking about, you know, we've got to give a nod on the podcast to Gareth Bale, you know, who's announced his retirement. And like, yeah, and again, you mentioned it, Sion, which is the point with people like Zlatan and all that, is that maybe unfortunately, like, he was never gonna, you know, dominate, even though he did get to the World Cup with Wales in the end. They were never gonna win it. Same with the Euros, but at least he's like, you know, had the privilege of scoring a goal and being in a World Cup for his country. But he would never have made it to the level of like your Messis or Ronaldos. Well, not even Ronaldo really, but definitely Messi now that he's got the World Cup. But yeah, Yeah, but Mbappe will like. Where's he going to go then? Where would you see him in like the Spanish league?
I mean, I think PSG corrupted his mind. I think he was going Real Madrid before PSG said, "Yeah, you're going to get this much a week. We'll give you say on the transfers, manager." He owns the club. Mbappe basically has a stake in the club. I think he was going to go to Real Madrid, but they probably turned his head with everything they threw at him, and like aside from the money, all the sort of extra benefits. Aside from that, to be honest, but I do see him in the Real Madrid shirt though. I can see it.
Yeah, but you can't leave it too late. You can't leave it too late.
Yeah, it's very true. I think
He's
his
got to go in the
current
next
contract.
season or two. He's got to go in the next season or two.
I think his
How old is
current
he?
contract expires when he's 20. I think is it 2026 or something like that? So you'll be like 26, 27. I think something like that.
For me, if he
Yeah.
doesn't leave, he's going to miss out on Ancelotti's rebuilding squad.
Yeah,
Because you remember, like Ancelotti's not seriously getting rid of the deadwood, but he's, I know he's still great for United, but I don't think he'll be as great in that Real Madrid squad. You've got the likes of Cruz. I know Modric is 37, but we all know that within a year or two, he's probably going to either leave or retire. So, Ancelotti is thinking ahead. Even Benzema, don't get me wrong, he was amazing last season. This season, he hasn't been that great, and he's almost 36, I believe. So if you know that you can get Mbappe, an almost like for like, also French, and it's got so much potential, there's no reason why they shouldn't go in for him. To be honest, I can't really see him going to any other clubs, maybe Bayern. But again, it's just like, what reason would he want to go Bayern? But in terms of a team that could support him, you just got an abundance of players around Bayern. You've got Sane on the left, Gnabry on the right. You've got the likes of Kimmich, Goretzka supporting him behind as well.
So as we come to the end of this discussion about the World Cup and like him in particular, Mbappe, do you ever see him at the Premier League?
Maybe if it's that, I don't. Maybe Liverpool. I see him in a Klopp team. I see him in a Klopp team, probably Liverpool. If he was to come to the Premier.
He's probably missed that because Klopp's got one or two seasons left.
Yeah. So right now, I'll say no. I don't think he'll play in the Premier League.
Yeah.
The only way I could see
that could be your only argument about Messi. He never played in the Premier League, but I don't think that's an argument. I don't think that's an argument.
Like, Messi will score hat-tricks against Bournemouth and Burnley. He'll score hat-tricks, man.
I hear it all the time. But for me, it's not an argument.
Yeah, it's not an argument, man. Lionel Messi, man. He is, as Rosantham says, the greatest of all time. Yeah. Now, moving into Premier League.
You see already Rosantham, he's delaying getting to Premier League because he knows Chelsea.
No.
Anyway, let's move on.
Moving into the Premier League. We'll start off with Rosantham. I know we've spoken off camera quite a lot recently about Premier League and cup competitions. So yeah, we'll go with Rosantham. Your thoughts on United?
I think we've been amazing. I think off the back of the Man City defeat, we've only lost once since then, and that was against Villa. I think I mentioned it on the podcast, or I might have mentioned it to Sion personally. We had about 6 relatively easy games. I told Sion that I wanted 18 out of 18 points, but I'm happy that we got 15 out of 18, given the fact that we've now made it to the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. We're in the 5th round against Reading. I'll be honest, no offense to Reading, but realistically, we should be winning that, and that's an easy victory and a path to round of 16. Like I said, we've been amazing. I think the turnaround, no one saw this coming. Personally, I didn't. I think Casemiro's been amazing. I think for me, he's been a standout. I think he deserves some sort of award for the credit he's been doing so far for this team. Even this Tuesday when I saw him against Charlton, he only came on for a few minutes. He intercepted the ball and assisted the ball twice within those 4 minutes. And it just changed that game from a 1-0 edge to a 3-0 demolish against Charlton. Other players as well, like Rashford, he looks like nothing like the old. You know how last season he was terrible, out of form. He's lighting it up. I'm a bit concerned in the fact that I don't want us to be a one-man team. I don't want to be relying too much on him because we do lack squad depth, and that's going to hurt us because recently, I think since January 3rd, we've been playing a game every 3 days. And we've got a strong 11, but our bench, we don't have much coming off the bench. If reports are true, Elanga wants to go Everton, we don't really have anyone in terms of attacking. There's still issues around Sancho personal's side, so we're not too sure what's going on there, and we don't know when he'll be back, but I wish him the best. I know we signed Weghorst, but yeah, like I said, I have to see him in action. I'm not going to say too much. Like I said, Ten Hag bought him for a reason. Hopefully he can fulfill that reason.
Okay, and obviously, Man United, we know the history they have. Like, Man United is about competing for Champions Leagues, winning leagues. So I'm not talking about overachieving in that sense, but based on where you were last summer and probably the mood going into the season, do you think Ten Hag currently is overachieving based on obviously the summer, maybe not getting De Jong, not getting maybe all his top priority targets? So do you think he's currently overachieving this season?
I don't think he's overachieving because I think I made it clear in the start of the season that I wanted top 4 and a trophy minimum. And I think that's more than achievable. We've seen the likes of Chelsea managers do it, just coming in halfway through the season and doing it. So yeah, you can argue that's Chelsea DNA, but there's no reason that United can't do it. And with a bit of luck, we've managed to do that now. I would have to shoot myself if we're given the remaining 4 teams in the EFL Cup that we don't go on to win it. It's ours to lose in a nutshell. I think going into the Southampton game, I was worried that City would win and we'll get drawn to City in the semis. But now it's definitely ours to lose. We've got the power, we've got everything in our hand. We've even gotten the better draw as well. And if Southampton do overturn Newcastle in a 2-leg victory, who's to stop us? On paper, we're playing a team that are currently 20th in the league. Yeah, they beat Man City, but
and you can stop them from denying their goalkeeper.
That's another one. Henderson's we've denied.
He shouldn't be allowed to play technically, and you could stop that. So that's a plus.
We already denied him. He's not going to be playing.
Right. Because I heard they were going to ask, but I did think that they wouldn't be allowed to. Can I jump in on the overachieving part?
Go on, James. Yeah.
It's a phrase that's commonly used, and I agree with what you're saying, Sion. But I think any Man United fan wouldn't say they're overachieving. A Man United fan would say they're doing what's expected. And the thing is with that is that they've been left alone. They've gone under the radar this season, and the manager's been left to get on. And yeah, okay, you had the debacle with Ronaldo and all of that, yeah. But actually, Rossantham's spot on 100% with what he's saying, and especially around Rashford and players like that. When the club is left alone to get on, and you can get rid of everything that was the previous and start you got a good manager, and he's proving that now. If you don't finish in the top 4 and don't get to the final of the League Cup, and possibly further in the FA Cup, then you've got to consider it, because he's in the pole position now, the manager. He's got the fans back on side. He's got players that are playing now and being more relaxed and wanting to play. He's stamped his authority, so then the players know that he's in charge. Yeah, I think you go on, you beat Forest in the semi-final, get to the final. The only doubt with me is Newcastle, because I think they will get to the final.
Only Newcastle.
Right, Newcastle could. I think they're due a win. I think Eddie Howe. I love Eddie Howe from before he was at Newcastle, and I just love him to win that League Cup, because he will prove. Because everyone said he's just a stopgap. He'll keep him in the league, and then they'll get a better manager. Well, as he's proven everyone wrong there. But going back to Man United, I think I might sound silly to say it because they're not, but they're under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, they are.
I didn't realise, but I knew they were doing well. But 15 points out of 18, that's not under the radar. That's your best form. They've got to be one of the top form teams in the league, I reckon.
Yeah.
So I just think when you say overachieving, I get what you're saying, Sion.
Yeah. Not in terms of the club, what they expected. I just mean based on the last couple of years where they've been.
Yeah, is it a surprise? Maybe is it did you expect him to have that impact? Did you expect fair enough, but you gotta hope the Man United fans stick with it, whatever happens, and you've got yourself out, and you could be top 4 for the next 5 years, easy, and back to where Man United should be, considering where they've been for the last 5 years. So I take my hat off to the Man United manager. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, it was right. So moving on to my club now. Listen, this season we've been nothing short of an absolute disgrace. This is the worst Chelsea team I've ever seen. Obviously, I'm watching for 15 years now, but in terms of just the players, in terms of their attitude, basic things like tracking back, just no desire at all. And yeah, we've been pathetic this season. Last night, again, more of the same. The only player that I can say that he's performed to standard, and yes, he's had a few bad games as well, is Thiago Silva, 38 years old. And that's the person we're relying on doing overtime at the back, putting him under pressure constantly during games. And it's just, Potter, I'm still behind him. Obviously, I know a lot of Chelsea fans, they've already given up on him. It's the self-entitlement, isn't it? In terms of Abramovich, used to seeing managers come in and win trophies instantly. But for me, Potter, he has to outlast some of these players. They've been here for years now, and they've made no impact on this club. So Potter, he needs to be backed this summer. Clear out as many as you can. Or even though I'm not expecting, you can't get rid of 20 players. It's not going to just be one summer. It's 3-4 years, like Arsenal. We've seen with Arteta 2-3 years ago when they were 16th, 17th in the league. Arsenal fans were calling for his head. The Cronkies, they ignore sort of all that and they stick with him. And now they're reaping the rewards of it. And it's looking like we're at the start of that process. Obviously, I hate the word process. Arsenal fans invented it, to be honest. But yeah, that's where we are in terms of our development. And yeah, we've been nothing short of a joke. We are the biggest underperformers in the Premier League this season. There's no doubt about it. In terms of the money we spent, obviously 270 million in the summer. We've already spent quite a lot in January as well. So yeah, there can be no doubts about it. We've been nothing short of a joke this season. And yeah, I don't know if any of you have anything to add on Chelsea.
For me, it is interesting. You've highlighted a couple of points there that I think, like, if the previous owner, Roman Abramovich, was still in position,
Potter's gone. He's gone.
Would have been gone. I think he would have been. But I also think he wouldn't have been appointed in the first place. And that's the difference that Chelsea fans have got to understand. That you've got a completely different owner that's bringing a completely different way of thinking than the previous owner. So he's not an owner that expects to win something every season. And if it doesn't happen, he sacks the manager, right? He's building, and like you say, as they say, like Arsenal invented it, trust the process. He is that type of owner that, like, he enjoys owning the club more than whatever the winning of the club is. Yeah, it's the status for him is that he owns Chelsea Football Club. It's a business for him. It's like, it's the kudos of like inviting people. It's very American, very sort of like, and if they get to like what he would call the Super Bowl, once or twice every 3 or 4 years, then he's happy. So he's not someone like the previous. So Potter will be given time and he should expect time, but he's got to still finish in the top 6. He's got to guarantee some sort of European football.
I think Europe's done. I think we're so far behind.
I think it's got to change. It's got to change. Chelsea can't go on a run of like they are on of losing 6 games or whatever it is, 6 or 7 games. Yeah, that's got to change. Yeah, all right, because you've got in the end, in the next 3 or 4 games, you've got to see some Potter effect. You've got to see something. He can't keep, and I'm not saying he's using injuries as excuses and this, but he got the job for a reason. He's got to go back to the basics of what that reasoning was, and he's got to trust his own way, if you want to say the process, and do it. So I think it's a crucial time. But you're right, Chelsea fans wouldn't expect it, and I don't think no one did. But then you've got to credit other clubs that are coming on. Like no one expected Man United, Newcastle to be as what they were. Do you know what I mean? So there's Fulham, but they beat Fulham. I mean, you lost to Fulham, but Fulham were in the top 7, I think the top 8, something like that.
Yeah, Fulham, they've been better than us. Yeah,
and they're a classy act. They've got a good manager. They're sort of organised, But you're either Chelsea are lost in the league, but I do think they've still got the capability of putting a run on that will get them into the top 6.
You think?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Razanthan, anything to add or? I don't know. Anything else?
I was going to ask you, do you think Tuchel should have got sacked, given what you've seen?
Yeah, no. So yeah, obviously hindsight, but no, I still think sacking Tuchel for me was the right decision, purely because I told James this before our first game of the season. He said midfield. He saw our midfield get absolutely annihilated by Arsenal. I know it was pre-season, but the warning signs were there. We get away with that 1-0 win against Everton, and he comes out and says midfield is not a priority this season when that's the weakest point of our team. And like we saw against Leeds, midfield completely run over 3-0. I personally think with Tuchel staying here, these results were coming because most of this squad is his. I know, like they say in the summer, I know he came out and said Koulibaly and Sterling were his players. Like Sterling is their number one target. So I'm not saying absolutely every person we bought in the summer was his signing, but Koulibaly, Aubameyang, Sterling, those three, 100% were. So yeah, I still think sacking Tuchel was the right decision despite our struggles now and where we are. That's what I think personally. But moving on, James, West Ham.
Oh, where do we start? We've picked up a bit. We were dreadful against Brentford in the league in between Christmas and New Year at home. We were awful, lost 2-0. We were awful. And, we picked it up a bit. I said once we lost that, I said we'd beat them in the FA Cup because that's always the amount of teams that were playing each other in the league and then playing each other in the Cup. There was always going to be one would win one or the other or whatever. So, yeah, it was good to win in the FA Cup. I think we played better against Leeds away. But for me, it's just if the likes of Paqueta, who was in the World Cup and did well and come back, if he was playing in a Chelsea team or Man United, he'd probably be playing a lot better. And that's no disrespect to West Ham. It's just that it's not working, so it's not gelling. He's getting better, but we need a Scamacca, the Italian striker. Well, I don't know what he did in the World Cup break, but he looked so off the pace and all that. But again, he's slowly picking up. But we ain't got time for that. But the concerns for us is David Moyes and can he get West Ham out of this before getting the sack? But then if he gets the sack, who do we bring in? But the next 2 weeks are crucial. We go Wolves away tomorrow, who are in the bottom, and we go Everton at home, who are near the bottom. You pick up 6 points against teams that are around you, that makes a big, big difference. So he's got to get 6 points out of the next 2 games, or then they may consider. I will note just on, not a personal note, but for West Ham fans that listen and all that, and I think for any football fan, we pay a nod to David Gold, who sadly died last week, the joint owner of West Ham. So we just think of him. And obviously we've lost, since the last podcast, the likes of Pele and Vialli. So, it happens, but I think it just cements what football is all about. It is sort of, a world game and people should support. And yeah, you have your club to support, but you value good people that have done the service of football really well. So we think of them. But yeah, I just think West Ham, it's a little bit, the expectation was raised for the last 2 seasons, how we did. So I don't think no one expected us to be down the bottom and struggling for form. And that's what it is. Likes of Jared Bowen's off form, Antonio's off form. They've had an offer for Craig Dawson from Wolves. So they're offloading. Zuma's been injured. Kurt Zuma, we miss him. Fabianski's done all right. Rice, some of the comments he's made in the World Cup and some of the things he's saying, he's just being honest. I don't think he's in a rush to get out, but I just think he's being honest, But if West Ham can't bring European football next season, then how long can we hang on for him? And we've got to wait till March before the Europa Conference comes back. So, I think the next few weeks are crucial for West Ham. They've picked it up. They've picked up a bit of form, but now they've got to get the results. Tomorrow I'll take 1-0, absolute diabolical game, but a 1-0 win. And I'd even sit through next weekend at commentating at the London Stadium against Everton, and I'll take a 1-0 boring game as long as we win. And then we pick it up.
Yeah, I've got one question for you. Obviously, you talk about Moyes potentially being under pressure. Obviously, you being there in the ground every week, I was going to ask you what the general consensus is amongst fans. Are they still behind him?
Yeah, no, I think, if I'm honest with you, and I'm always honest, the club and the players and the coaching staff are 100% behind him. I've seen it. I was at the training ground during the Christmas break. I've seen it. I've seen, it's still there. Mark Noble's come back now as a director of and so he's heavily involved now. That might make a change. But for the fans, and to answer your question, it pains me to say it, but I think it's 50-50. I could talk to a West Ham fan tomorrow and he'd be back in Moyes because of what he's done the last 2 seasons and we'll want to see him out. And then I'll talk to another one on Sunday and they want him out. That's how it is. But then you want people out who, like Samson mentioned him earlier on. People are thinking Tuchel will come to West Ham. It ain't going to happen. There was rumours we might get Scott Parker. Look where he's ended up. Club Brugge in the Champions League, but he lost his first game, I think. But it's who is there to replace, and that's what I think is the dilemma now. For when you're thinking of sacking a manager, is who do you get in? And then like Chelsea, they get Potter in. Well, you've got to give Potter 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah.
But I think it's 50-50 in terms of the West Ham fans, which I'm a bit surprised about, but that's what I hear. And me, you've seen me. I chat to a lot of people when I'm there at the games. I have a lot of people chat to me during, mid games, things like that. So yeah, 50-50.
Okay. Well, we'll move into this weekend's games, previewing them. We'll start with the big one, the Manchester derby. Rosanthon, your thoughts on the build up to that game and your score prediction?
Oh, I'm honestly nervous. I can't wait for it. Only because also I'm going to go see it, but it's a big game. I think what you were mentioning earlier about expectations, I think if certain results go away and we win tomorrow, if going into March, we're only maximum 5 points behind Arsenal, whoever's at top, then you can make a conversation that, Ten Hag has really changed it around. Then I'd say he's exceeded my expectations in the league. Because for me, I always thought it was unrealistic. Like, even Arsenal didn't think they would be first. Their expectation was to be top 4. Our expectation was to be top 4. For us to come and turn it around and potentially be in a title race, as it stands, I don't think we are. I think we still need to prove it. But the way the fixtures are coming thick and through, and the fact that Arsenal still have to play Man City twice in the next month, and the fact that we're going to play Arsenal away as well, if we somehow put our heads down and actually win those games, those crucial games, and the likes of Spurs, they go into Arsenal, North London derby this Sunday as well. If they manage to beat Arsenal and other teams in the league do us a favour, there's no reason why I don't see us in a title race. But as it stands, realistically, I think it's going to be a tight game. I do think it's going to be a tight game. I think there's going to be a lot of mind games following the Southampton result. They weren't too great in the league either. They drew against Everton. I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. But hopefully, I'm hoping we do win. But yeah.
James, your thoughts on that game and the score prediction?
Yeah, so I was just looking at the league table. I think it's a tough one. I know it sounds silly, but it's a funny time kickoff as well. The Manchester derby, I think it's 12:30 kickoff, so preparation's key. It's at Old Trafford, so that gives Man United a bit of an advantage. Can they follow up from their current form? But you just never know with City. They'd be a bit, disappointed for the League Cup that they lost to Southampton. He'll probably play his strongest 11 that he thinks is his strongest 11. I see goals. Do I sit on the fence and go for a draw? Or do I hope that Man United win for the reasons Rosanthon's just said? Yeah, so like with Man United now and what Rosanthon said about the current fixtures for like City have got to play Arsenal twice, United have got to go to Arsenal. I think as much as I might sit on the fence, I'd be edging more towards it'd be good if Man United win. Because then it just makes it a little bit more interesting for the coming games. And if City can take some points off of Arsenal, United take some points off of Arsenal, United win tomorrow. So let's go 3-2 United.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 Man United. I think this Man City team, I don't think they're as good as they are in previous seasons. I always said for me, Man City, I think their best front three was Aguero, Sane and Sterling. City usually, when they're dynamic down the wings with sort of speed, I thought that's when they were sort of at their most deadly form. Obviously, Haaland's come in. He's doing his job in terms of he's doing what he was brought in to do, score goals. But then I think that's to the detriment of the rest of the attack. I think Mahrez, like in the cups, he's been scoring, but in the league, I don't think he's really hit top form. It's like if Foden's not chipping in with goals here and there, then I think Man City is sort of easier to nullify them now than it was in previous years, as Everton showed. Like a couple, was it the last league game where City, they were 1-0 up, and usually City of old, they're burying you 2-3, and that's it, it's game over. But they, it was 1-0, Everton hung in there, they get an equaliser, and then usually City, when you equalise, they can go another gear and still get a winner. They had no answer to Everton in terms of going and getting that winning goal we probably all expected. Southampton, as Razanthan mentioned, in the League Cup, 2-0 down. I've seen City 2-0 down in Cups many times. They come back and win 3-2, go on to win the competition. Swansea comes to mind a couple of years ago in the FA Cup, 2-0 down. They bounced back and they went on to win the FA Cup that season, 18-19. So I do think this Man City team, they're not the same. I think this United team, can get at them. And yeah, being at Old Trafford, I think City are vulnerable, to be honest. Obviously, City can turn up and beat them. Man City can beat anyone on their day, but I just think they're slightly weaker than they have been in previous years. So yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 United. I'll move into the North London derby now. Obviously, none of our teams here involved in that, but obviously probably the second biggest game of the weekend. Arsenal and Spurs fans will say the biggest. I'll start with James. Your thoughts on that game and your score prediction.
Arsenal Spurs, yeah? Is it Arsenal?
No, Spurs Arsenal at
Sorry,
Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
my mistake. There we go. From a West Ham fan, that's as much as about interest I am with that bloody North London derby. I don't care. If I really care, I'd say Tottenham to win just to annoy Arsenal, because then other teams can catch them. But I don't care. Harry Kane hat-trick, I don't know. I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered even the slightest about the London derby. But if I was going on form, you'd think Arsenal will go and park the bus and get a draw so they remain sort of unbeaten on their little run. But Tottenham have got some points to prove. Some players have got some points to prove. Conte's got some points to prove. They're at home. Big atmosphere. Let's go Harry Kane hat-trick, 3-2 Arsenal.
You mean 3-2 Spurs? Harry Kane hat-trick, you said? Oh, okay.
Tottenham, yeah, Tottenham. It's a joke, Sion, yeah? I don't care about the North London derby. He might get hat-trick and score the winner for Arsenal as an own goal.
I'm going 3-1 Arsenal. I think I know they've sort of, that North London derby in recent years is usually gone with the home team in terms of home advantage, but I think Arsenal this season they look a different beast. I think now more than ever they can go to Spurs and sort of do the double over them. I don't know when last any of them did the double over each other. So I think Arsenal, it'll be a big statement. I know Arsenal, they've beaten Liverpool already. So they will say like, oh, everyone keeps saying like, yeah, this week is the test. But I think going to your North London rivals where historically it's always been usually a tight game, even though Arsenal have usually come out on top previous generations as well. But yeah, I do think if Arsenal can go away and win, especially let's say after maybe United draw or beat Man City, if they go into that game with Man City having dropped points and then they go away and win that and extend their lead, then I think that would be a big statement, I think, for the league. And I do think probably they would go on to win the league if City don't win and they win. So yeah, I'm going to go Arsenal 3-1 win. Spurs aren't really that good, to be honest. They can win, but no, I'm going Arsenal win 3-1. Razanthan.
I think, yeah, as Sia mentioned, in recent history, it's always been the home team that wins the North London derby. But I think this time, I think it will be different. I think Arsenal are just too much on form. They've always come back when they've dropped points. I remember after they lost to us, they've been on this amazing form. They dropped points against Newcastle, so they'll be really gutted with that result. They'll be definitely trying to pull back some points after that result. I do think Arsenal will win it. I don't think they'll win it by a big margin, only because it is against Spurs. They're going to want to turn up against their rivals, and it's at their new stadium. So I think I'm going to go 1-0 Arsenal.
Okay, James, I believe, is it Wolves West Ham this weekend?
Massive game, yeah, and it's a Saturday 3:00 away from home at the Molineux. Wolves against West Ham, no doubt about it. West Ham have got to win. I think they will. I think they're surprised. Like, you know, if Wolves beat West Ham tomorrow, they put West Ham in the bottom three and jump above them. Yeah, there's only a point difference between them. I think Wolves have started to get used to their new manager, but I think West Ham, they will win. They will win. So I'm going probably 2-1 West Ham.
Razanthan?
Oh, it's a tough one. Oh, I'm gonna go I'm gonna go 2-1 West Ham as well.
Good.
I'm gonna go.
I was
What?
thinking
Sorry,
for a
James?
minute there. I was thinking for a minute, if he goes Wolves, I've been so nice to Man United this podcast that I'd have to change my views. But anyway, well said, Rasentham. Coming in,
Yeah.
see on this
Yeah,
hat trick of West Ham.
I'm gonna go 1-0 West Ham. 1-0 West Ham. Yeah, West Ham. They will start win. I can't see West Ham going on this run for like West Ham. They're due to start winning now. I saw Wolves against Everton, and for me, Everton were the better team, but Wolves went up the other end and nicked it in the last minute, which is sometimes how football goes. So no, I do think it'll be a tight game, low scoring, but I think West Ham will nick it 1-0. And the last game, Chelsea Palace. I think that's 2 p.m. on Sunday. This Chelsea team, I've said it so far in my time watching. This is the worst Chelsea squad for me I've seen personally. We're dreadful. At home to Palace.
And Palace is one of the worst teams to play. They're so inconsistent.
Yeah. And Palace, we've seen Palace turn up and beat big teams like in the past as well, even when they've not been in the greatest of form. I'm going to go 1-1. Rasentham.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Mr. Datson said. Palace is just very unpredictable. I mean, they started well against, I can't remember who it was in the FA Cup, but then they lost, I think it was Everton. They lost 2-1 in the end, so they don't really look the greatest. I think realistically, Chelsea should be winning it. If they don't, it's just going to be another banter week for Chelsea, to be honest. And I'm all for it, but realistically, Chelsea should be winning it. So I'm going to go 2-0 Chelsea.
James?
Yeah, I agree exactly with Rasentham. I'd like to see Chelsea win for Potter, because I believe your next league game's Liverpool. I'm not 100% sure. Is that right?
Yeah, Anfield. Yep, the week after.
So like, you can't lose to on Sunday and then go to Anfield with that record. But will a point be enough? I don't think so. But it's the inconsistency of Palace. Palace are one of those teams that if they turn up and they play, they're good. They're good. They're hard to beat. And if you hadn't have your new signing sent off against Fulham, and if he might have been playing, I would have backed Chelsea straight away. But I'm still going to back them because you're at home. So I can see a few goals as well. So maybe 3-1 or something to Chelsea, something like that.
Okay. Anything else to add to anything we've discussed before we wrap up?
I only want to bring up one thing. I don't know if you guys watched the FA Cup match between Liverpool and Wolves. What do you guys make of the disallowed goal?
Yeah,
Can we start off with the fact? Is this about can we just start off by the fact about the VAR? If you're going to have it, it's got to be in every game. You can't have VAR in some of the games in the same round. You either don't have it, or it's got to be available the whole time. Yeah, but the goal was a bit. I don't know. Go on, Sion. You got to.
No. Yeah, I saw the highlights. Obviously, I was abroad, so I didn't see it live, but I did see the highlights, and to me, it's a goal. But yeah, football rules, they change. They'll say law, whatever, this in the FA guide, whatever means. Yeah, it's not a goal. So they usually they always pull it out the bag. They always pull it out the bag in terms of finding an excuse to not award a goal. Yeah,
there's so many rules that we don't know. That's the problem. So if they don't want to give it, they'll find a rule, that makes it not given. But yeah.
And yeah, as James said as well, thoughts and prayers with Gianluca Vialli, Pele, David Gold. May they rest in peace. And as he said, with Pele and Vialli as well, their services on the pitch to football, their legacy will live on forever. And thoughts and prayers with them. Thanks everyone for listening. Like, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you all again very soon. Take care.